सुंदर सुविचार के साथ हम प्रज्ञान के थर्ड टेक्निकल सेशन का शुभारंभ करते हैं। स्वदेशी पूजते राजा, विद्वान सर्वत्र पूजते।
That means a king is honored in his own country, but a learned man throughout the world. And we are quite sure that after this session, moreover after this national conference, we would all have definitely gained a lot. I would like to welcome you all to this wonderful post-run session on Dare, Defy and Differ during bank audit, practical case studies.
मैं तहे दिल से आज के सेशन कोऑर्डिनेटर सीए रवि जैन को मंच पर आमंत्रित करती हूँ।
A big round of applause for CA Ravi Jain sir. Now, I would request our today's session chairman, CA Sameer Singh sir, to please join the dais.
I take the honor to invite on the dais our eminent speaker of the session, CA Abhishek Mahavar. Let's hear it for the...
CA Abhishek Mahavar sir. He has an almost experience of 24 years as a member of ICAI. He has done his bachelor's from GEC NIT in 1995 with second rank in Pandit Ravi Shankar University. He completed his CA exams in November 98 with an AIR 40. He had qualified as an information systems auditor and also an insolvency professional registered with IBBI. He started his professional career with Infosys Enterprise Consulting Division. He has worked with Infosys in various roles for more than 6 years and has led multiple ERP projects as a program manager. At Abbas & Company LLP, along with heading the audits at the firm, he has been instrumental in starting ERP services at Raipur and executing consulting assignments in various large companies at Raipur. He has executed the role of engagement partner while executing the central statutory audit of Dena Bank. He has been an independent director at IRTA, a 100% central government company owned to public sector NBFC under the Ministry of Renewable Energy from 2017 to 20. He is also currently serving as a board member in M Capital, a Bombay-based fintech NBFC into SME lending, and G Sharp Formula Private Limited, an IT company into ERP implementation services as a non-executive director. Now with a wholehearted cheer, I request CA Rishikesh Yadav sir to please present our guest of honor CA Abhishek Mahavar sir with a bouquet. उनका सम्मान अब छत्तीसगढ़ के राज्य गमछा से किया जाएगा।
Now, I take the privilege to introduce our session chairman, CA Sameer Singh. CA Sameer Singh is a fellow member of the ICAI in practice since the last 25 years, and he holds a bachelor's degree in law and is also qualified ISA. CA Sameer Singh has vast experience in the field of audits and taxation. Sir has been actively engaged in various activities of ICAI and was the secretary of Bilaspur CA Association. Sir has also been actively involved in social welfare and education of underprivileged in various social organizations and NGOs. अब हम CA रश्मि चौरड़िया को आग्रह करते हैं for the floral welcome of our session chairman CA Sameer Singh. And also to present him with our Chhattisgarhi Rajkiya Gamcha.
Now, without any further ado, I would like to hand over the proceedings to today's session chairman, CA Sameer Singh sir, for his welcome address and then to continue the session further. Please sit.
Thank you, MOC. वेलकम टू दिस टेक्निकल सेशन। और इस सेशन का जो टॉपिक है वो टॉपिक स्टोरी है, कहानी है, रियल लाइफ स्टोरी अबाउट बैंक ऑडिट्स। स्टोरी मैं इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ, लाइफ टाइम एक्सपीरियंस इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ कि उसमें सारे कलर्स ऑफ लाइफ रहते हैं। आप बैंक ऑडिट में जाते हैं, सामने वाला आप जितना वो बैंक ऑडिट नहीं करते हैं, वो पहले वो आपकी ऑडिट कर लेता है। आपके बारे में, आपके रिश्तेदारों के बारे में सब कुछ जानकारी उनको हो जाती है। फिर सारे कलर्स ऑफ लाइफ, ड्रामा, इमोशंस, सारी चीज़ें आप वहाँ पे विटनेस करते हैं। तो आई एम श्योर कि अभिषेक सर के जो एक्सपीरियंस है उससे तो हम तो सब लाभान्वित होंगे ही, और जो उनका टेक्निकल नॉलेज है जिसकी वजह से वो ऐसे ऐसे इंस्टेंसेस निकालते होंगे बैंक ऑडिट के टाइम पे, हम लोग सभी जानने के लिए बहुत उत्सुक हैं। आई वेलकम यू सर फॉर दिस टेक्निकल सेशन। लेट्स शेयर हिज नॉलेज।
Session Chairman Samir Bhai, dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, seniors in the profession, though there are very few it seems. I've been almost touching 50 now. So at the outset, I thank all the three managing committee, Bhilai, Bilaspur and Raipur, for inviting me over and to share my experience as past central auditor. And at the same time, I feel privileged and proud to be presenting today this topic, which is so far an enigma it seems, dare, defy and differ. Friends, before coming here, I was thinking post-lunch session is the only challenge that I have. But then, after listening to Dr. Rakesh Gupta and being a towering personality himself, not in a literal constructive sense what he was mentioning, because the site is quite short, so he's not a towering personality in the literal sense, but the content that he possesses really makes him a towering personality. And the third challenge that I see now is now everybody got in the mode of income tax again. So bringing everybody back to bank audit is again the third challenge that I feel is before me. Friends, to understand this topic, dare, defy and differ, I'll have to be very honest that there's nothing in it. There's no dare, no defy, and differ. It started with something with Ravi Gwalani ji when he approached me and said, Abhishek bhai, you have to give some time on this national conference and share your knowledge. And apparently I suggested him, okay, it's fairly simple, I'll just discuss my experiences and my case studies and that should be enough. So he said, no boss, you need to have equally good heading as good as your content. So you need to find me a good heading. And coincidentally, one of my engineering friend who happens to be an Inspector General of Police in J&K State was coming to Raipur on a TED talk in our NIT itself. He was addressing the student and he had the same topic as dare, defy and differ. So being a chartered accountant and good in Control C, Control V, I copied that topic and put it, pasted it above my topic, which was practical case studies. Nonetheless, dare, defy and differ is actually very, very relevant in today's time in the bank audits. And I'll just share my first incident or episode that happened when we as a APS were appointed as Central Statutory of Dena Bank. That was in 2013. My first branch visit was to one of the large branches in Hyderabad. And there we were auditing and we found one account which had a CC limit of say 40 crores. And the company was in the business of media production, TV and media and content production. And that limit was backed by stocks, which were again this media content and so, and there was hardly any turnovers. Turnovers was even less than 20-25% of the overall limit. But you would see, the IRX circular being so rule specific. As long as you are submitting the stock statements, as long as your interest, your credits in the account is more than the debits that you've charged, as long as your outstanding is not continuously beyond 90 days above the sanction limit, you cannot classify a CC account as an NPA. But then, if you see, it was blatantly appearing as something which was false. How can a content media which is not selling, there was no history, the last year's audit report also was not giving us the turnover. We were feeling as to, this is not right. How do we do something about it? Because ultimately this seems not to be realizable in the... And this, friends, you all know, IRX circular, as long as the account is standard, it doesn't allow you to, go beyond the rules. You can't look at the securities. The securities doesn't have too much of a meaning apart from Basel III norms on the aspect of IREC, which is income recognition. So what happened, friends, we were not bold enough in our first quarter, let me put it very honest. We could understand that there is some issue. We understood that there is a lot divergence of fund, the entire 40 crore is gone, but we were still unable to do something. We raised it as an issue, as a pre-finalization memo. The branch manager gave us a big long reply with all the justification of how this limit, how this account needs to be standard. And despite not getting convinced, we had to let it go. Though it was a limited review, but still limited review is as good as statutory audit, so we can't. So that was the first thing where we felt we were not there enough. And that's how the word there is still important, though it is cut, copied and pasted, but it's important. The next quarter in March, when we again went, it was a year end, and one more thing, in all these things, LFAR is the only tool that auditor has if something is fitting into IRAC. He can't change anything on the P&L, so he has to just report it in LFAR. So branch managers would come and always ask himself, isko LFAR mein dal dijiye, which something does not impact our P&L. Practically speaking, guys, I'm slightly digressing from the topic. I don't feel as a branch auditors or a central statutory auditors, LFAR is our job. LFAR is for the concurrent auditors, revenue auditors, inspection auditors, whoever comes in between, and it should be a consolidated report that a statutory auditor should be given, not to be prepared by. He should analyze whether there is a revenue or a P&L impact or a balance sheet impact, because ultimately statutory auditors are supposed to certify the true and fairness of the balance sheet, not the typical internal audit stuff that we write in LFAR. But that apart, so the next quarter, March, when we visited and we saw, we thought of doing something else. So I requested one of my team members to go and visit that place. So we were in Hyderabad. The account was a little far. We went to their office where this media content was kept. So we found that it was in boxes. So there were some magnetic tapes, digital DVDs at that time. DVDs were, still existed, and digital content, so it's there in our servers, etc. So still, to make that account NPA, we needed something, right? We knew that there's nothing here. So what we did, and I will request, I don't have it in my laptop here, 4.2.6 paragraph of the IREC circular, the current IREC circular, April 2022, the latest one, allows us to use certain subjectivity while classifying an account as NPA. So wherever we feel that something is not right, and it cannot be used just like that, you have to have solid ground, you need to do a lot of documentation to prove that. But we can use 4.2.6 and classify the account as NPA. We did that. There was a lot of hue and cry. People, branch manager आया, फिर zonal manager आया, फिर वहाँ का regional head आया, फिर zonal head आया. And then when we moved to Bombay, then our GM came, GM credit, फिर CGM आया, फिर ED भी बोले, sir, 40 crores, how can we just go like that? And we were not realizing while being auditor and classifying as NPA, that what is the impact on P&L. because we did substandard, saying DP not being met because stock is not there, and the credits are being only created only at the period end, and we gave a reason, justification, and did substandard. But that was not correct. Our treatment was not correct. The reason being, the moment an account is classified as substandard, there is another para in provisioning norms in IRAC circular, which tells you that for any unsecured or for any NP account, the security becomes important. And the security in these cases, in this case, was copyright, media content and everything, which need not be considered for an account which is NP. So suddenly the value became zero. So entire 40 crores were hitting my P&L at that time. So that was the reason why this account was being held by the bank. I should not directly allege the bank management, but yes, the bank was knowing this and knowingly they were not doing this. So once we classified, our CGM was after me, boss, what are you doing? And they felt we were from Raipur, small town place, so they can bulldoze us. But then we stuck to our ground. Fortunately, we were also handling the advances at the bank level. So we stuck to our ground even while finalizing the entire advance statement. And you would not believe that the moment the audit committee was done, means the books were finalized, audit committee done, board results got approved. Immediately after that, the next action that the bank took was to take up the SARFAESI action against the borrower. So all that justification that they were doing, instead of putting an effort and getting the money recovered, they started the SARFAESI action on that borrower. So there are three takeaways, guys, from this episode. First is, do what you feel is right. If you feel something is not correct, there are enough ammunition, firepower in our IRAC circular which gives you that leeway to do things. Second is, do not trust the bank manager on their justification. Third would be, in all situations it probably applies, especially it comes from the, the justification, the RMs and all, how people will start calling even for a 5 lakh, 10 lakh MPA. They like to, and I quote this from somewhere else, if you can't dazzle with brilliance, you can always baffle with bullshit. That's a quote that comes from somewhere else. But that's what happens with the bank management, and they like to confuse you and try to dissuade you from putting the account into NPA. Friends, once the flow that I've thought would be fruitful for everyone today is I'll be discussing more on restructuring. There are various case studies, and I'm not picking up something which is my story or our firm story and we did this, we did that. We want to give you something which is useful when you do a bank branch audit. Obviously you should have got it first doing it. I know a lot of people here may not have had it. Even we don't have the audit this year. That apart, your towering personality, not in the literal construction. So, anyways, moving ahead. So, certain case studies on restructuring and certain case studies on non-restructuring matters, which should be helpful. Friends, you must be aware of this circular on automation of IRAC norms, which came in June 2020, and it is supposed to get implemented by all banks by 30th June 2021. Now, this circular talks about automation of 4 or 5 things, and this request was from RBI was always there with the banks, and I'll tell you how it has generated, and I'll give you my practical experience as well. So, in our first audit committee, Mr. I don't remember the name now, but he was from South, and he was a RBI nominee director in the bank board. And he asked me, and my colleague Ankush introduced me in that meeting. Sir, he's my colleague, he's an engineer and he's a chartered accountant. The moment he heard engineer, he asked, Abhishek ji, tell me whether our bank is system driven or not. So, being an engineer, I cannot say yes, I cannot say no. I mean, system driven is a very vague term. A set of process of steps done in a proper procedural manner is also a system. So it's not that everything needs to be automated if somebody says system driven. So I said, sir, some things are system driven, like interest application is system driven. First level of NPA identification is system driven. So he scolded me. He said, boss, what are you talking about? Either it will be a system driven or it will not be a system driven. So what I'm trying to hit at here is that system driven being subjective, RBI came out with this circular precisely to address what needs to be automated and what may not be automated. So NPA identification of all borrower accounts, income recognition and derecognition, provisioning, process of upgrade from NPA account to standard, and they also mandated it to be an ongoing exercise as part of day-end process. So every day there would be NPA. Earlier it used to be quarter end, and before that it used to be earlier it used to be month end. Before that it used to be quarter end. So the point here is the case studies that I have chosen. And why I am bringing this circular is the case studies that we have chosen today will hopefully allow us to still give leeways in identifying NPAs while the systems are automated. So I'm assuming the systems have been fully automated in this regard, and if they are not, I'm sure LFAR has enough paragraphs now, the new LFAR format, to address all these points. So some of the areas I'll just briefly discuss and then we'll move to the case study. Rephasement and rescheduling of loans, cost overruns in a project loan, rollovers in short-term loans or long-term loans, increase in the project outlay means the increase in the cost of the project and the DCCO aspect, delays in completion of project, take-out financing, reviews of NPA accounts, IDC is interest during construction phase, IDC funding in project loans. So I will touch upon case studies from this area, and before touching the case study, I'll just briefly explain to you the provisions which are there in IRAC norm which will help us understand these case studies. So first thing that we now know from which has been there from 2015 onwards, that any account which becomes restructured is downgraded. So para 17.1 is very clear. In case of restructuring, the accounts classified as standard should be immediately downgraded as NPA. Now, paragraph 16 defines what is restructuring. So here we talk about what is the moment account is restructured, it needs to be downgraded. Paragraph 16 defines what restructuring is, and restructuring, kindly read the definition carefully. Restructuring is an act in which a lender, for economic or legal reasons relating to the borrower's financial difficulty, grants concession to the borrower. Restructuring may involve modification of terms of the advances, which would generally include alteration of payment period. I'm quoting alteration of payment period. Payable amount of installments, rate of interest, rollover of credit facilities, sanction of additional credit facilities, release of additional funds, an account in default to aid curing of default, enhancement of existing credit limits, etc. Now, reschedulement and rephasement is something that we see extremely commonly done by the bank. Extremely commonly. I mean, this is the most common area in which we find that bank has done this and has not classified, and system will not do it automatically. Here the automation won't work because of the term borrower's financial difficulty, which is a subjective term. So any subjective term cannot allow any system to be automated, because that subjectivity has to be factored in somehow in the systems, which is not there. So borrower's difficulty, now there is a separate paragraph in IRAC which defines what borrower financial difficulty is, and it suggests that board may have a pre-approved policy as to what are the signs of financial stress and what are the signs of financial distress. So based on that policy, bank should be deciding as to whether borrower was under financial difficulty or not at the time of reschedulement or rephasing. And I'm not going into how reschedulement and rephasement is checked in the system, because we all know ACLI, and from there we go to the account master and then shift F4, and I can visualize the screen. I don't remember the T code. So from there it is very easy to find out what all accounts are restructured and rephased. And from that point onwards, you can check at the files, respective files, to see whether the borrowers were under any kind of distress. And that will make the account as restructured, even if you do an alteration. Not all alteration will be, an NPA or restructuring for that matter. So this is the first thing, and we have done number of accounts as NPA, even as a branch auditor. While we're doing last 4 years with Bank of India, we've done number of accounts as on restructuring, on rephasement. I'll go to the next case study. It's on rollover. It's very close to my heart personally, because here in this case study we had to fight with one of the leading law firms in India. CAM का नाम सबने सुना होगा, Cyril Merchant Mandal Das. And bank had sought an opinion from them on this matter, and we somehow stuck to our ground and we prevailed, and then we had to write back to CAM as to this is what is our exact query, don't go by the bank's query, answer to this one, and they did not reply. So we assumed that our view was correct. Before anything, friends, my views, these are all views that are very personal. And it's sort of a disclaimer that these are all subjective things, and some auditors or some bank management may have a different opinion. So this is our opinion, and I would like to disclaim on that fact. So this case study, before we understand, let us go back quickly, or I'll first read out the case study, and then we can refer to the respective paras and come back to this case study. So here, an EPC contractor, say S, was financed a short-term term loan of 300 crores. And friends, in 300 crore ho ya 3 crore ho, situation remains the same. So don't assume that this is not applicable to branches. It is applicable. EPC contractor S was financed short-term loan of 300 crores with bullet repayment of 31/3/2023. The original DCCO was 31/12/2022. To execute, the EPC contractor was executing a project for a project sponsor who was H. So all project clearances and everything, the project belonged to H. S was the contractor. In March 23, S makes an application to the bank to roll over without any concession, no modification in interest rate or anything of that sort, for the repayment, bullet repayment date to another 12 months. So he was shifting the repayment period by 12 months. As he could not commission due to delay in some approvals to the project sponsors. Bank did the revised project DCCO from 31/12 to 31/12/22 to 23. S was paying all interest on time. However, he had some delinquencies with some other banks. So there was a multiple bank arrangement. No concession in the terms was given by the bank. So this is the situation that we have in front of us. Now again, we'll just quickly see what restructuring is. So what asset classification says, if you do any standard account, if you do any restructuring, it will be downgraded to substandard. Restructuring defines, as we discussed, borrower's financial difficulty, and then it also has rollover of credit facilities. Now I'll refer another para, 14.2.15. 14.2.15 or 14 para is very, very important to know. Unless chartered accountant reads that kind of para, I believe our study of IRAC is incomplete. So here it says deferment of DCCO and consequential shift in the repayment schedule for equal or shorter duration, including the start date and the end date of revised repayment schedule, will not be treated as restructuring, provided that revised DCCO falls within due period, etc., etc., all terms conditions. So, coming back to this case study, what should be our approach and what should be our view of thinking, line of thinking in this matter? So here there is a clear shift from a project completion date from 31/12 to 22 to 23, so it's a 1-year shift. Loan application is for 12 months, so it's a exact shifting of the repayment schedule also, as well as the project schedule date. So it is fitting into this. DC is 14.2, 4.2.15, it is fitting into that. Now whether it will be restructuring or not, that's our, the moot question here. And I think I have discussed this with some of our colleagues. I think Kedia ji probably must be knowing the answer, so I won't allow him to interfere in this. But if anybody wants to take a guess, we can have this session a little more interactive. Otherwise, I can go on and answer the query. So here, friends, first of all, the entire para, project under implementation, para 4.2.15, does not apply to contractors. It will only apply to a project sponsor. So here we are talking about EPC contractor, it will not be applied, hence that DCCO benefit is not available to my EPC contractor. And since there was delinquencies in other banks, there was a financial difficulty to the borrower, I'll apply my para and I'll classify this as NPA. This is what we did, and this, when we did, bank was extremely unhappy. They took the matter before CAM. The audit committee chairman said we will take it to legal opinion. So legal opinion they sought in their own method. We inquired what was the query sent. We then redrafted the query, sent it again. CAM did not reply, we did not get it. And this is what 300 crores, NPA was done. बेसल 3 आते ही क्या है, ज़्यादातर जब तक मैं भी ब्रांच ऑडिटर था पहले, वो लगता था कि सब सिस्टम से निकल रहा है, सब चीज़ ठीक होगी, तो दिमाग नहीं लगाते थे. But being a central auditor, after that I have understood the importance of capital adequacy. CRAR की कैलकुलेशन होती है और हमारे बेसल 3 के सिग्नेचर से होती है. तो हमारा बेसल 3 का सिग्नेचर जो होता है, it allows us to calculate what is the total risk weight of our asset. And risk weight is the denominator while we calculate the CRAR. So एक साइड कैपिटल है, एक साइड रिस्क वेट है. हम रिस्क वेट निकालते हैं और उसको डिनोमिनेटर में डाल के देखते हैं. तो रिस्क वेट मतलब अगर 100 रुपये का लोन है, तो whether I should be dividing it by 150 is what is Basel 3 all about. So Basel 3 के लिए there are few things which are it's a 900 or I think 400 page circular. मैं उसमें से कुछ relevant point जो branch auditors के लिए relevant है वो मैं शेयर करता हूँ. एक तो PCL प्रायोरिटी सेक्टर लेंडिंग की क्लासिफिकेशन इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, जो आपको लोन स्टेटमेंट में देखनी. सबसे ज़्यादा AFI जो आती है, AFI इज़ अ रिपोर्ट विच RBI गिव्स टू द बैंक आफ्टर रिव्यूइंग द ऑडिट वर्क. टोटल जब ऑडिट खत्म हो जाते हैं तब RBI एक AFI ऑडिट करता है, वो एक AFI रिपोर्ट देता है विच इज़ वेरी वेरी कॉन्फिडेंशियल टू द बैंक इटसेल्फ. तो AFI में भर भर के पॉइंट आते हैं PCL में कि भाई वो एग्रीकल्चर में क्लासीफाइड कर दिया, बट इट शुड हैव बीन क्लासिफाइड एज नॉन एग्रीकल्चर. तो नॉन एग्रीकल्चर एग्रीकल्चर में फ़र्क प्रोविजनिंग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से स्टैंडर्ड केसेस में 0.25 एंड 0.4 का, बट एट अ बैंक लेवल 0.15 मेक्स अ डिफरेंस. तो PCL क्लासिफिकेशन, सिमिलरली CRE क्लासिफिकेशन विच इज़ कमर्शियल रियल एस्टेट, यहाँ पे बहुत गलती होती है. एंड देन एक रिटेल रेगुलेटरी क्लासिफिकेशन. सो रिटेल में क्या होता है, 75% एक्सपोजर रिस्क वेट होता है. रिटेल में देर आर 4 conditions when account needs to be coming under a retail classification. 50 करोड़ से कम होना चाहिए टर्नओवर, 5 करोड़ से कम होना चाहिए एक्सपोजर, और ऐसे 2-3 और हैं। तो उसमें अगर रिटेल क्लासिफिकेशन, अगर आपने जो नॉन रिटेल है उसमें रिटेल डाला है, तो बैंक की रिस्क वेट 75% से जा रही है, 100 या 125 या 150 से नहीं जा रही है। So we have to be very careful as to what this, तो उतना पोर्शन आप जरूर पढ़ लीजिएगा। And the most common flaw that we used to find in Basel III was कि banks deliberately at times will not punch the credit rating if it is lower than triple B. तो अगर किसी कॉर्पोरेट की रेटिंग आ रही है डबल बी, बैंक में इजीली वो आपको बताएगी कि रेटिंग है, तो वो अनरेटेड में जाएगा। अनरेटेड का जो क्लासिफिकेशन है बेसल 3 में, वो बोलता है 100% रिस्क वेट में जाएगा, मतलब 100 रुपये का लोन 100 रुपये से ही डिवाइड होगा। बट अगर द मोमेंट इफ इट इज अ डबल बी क्लासिफाइड, देन माई डिनोमिनेटर विल बिकम टू 150 इफ इट इज करेक्टली पंच्ड। तो मेरा 150 होती ही मेरी CRAR इम्पैक्ट होती है। सो इट्स वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट। तो आपको रेटिंग जरूर चेक करनी है। तो हम लोग क्या करते थे इसके लिए, अब आजकल सब रेटिंग पब्लिश करती हैं, तो आपको पब्लिश रिपोर्ट से आराम से रेटिंग मिल जाती है कि किस कंपनी के क्या है। सिमिलरली CRE लोन्स अगर गलत क्लासिफाइड है, रेजिडेंशियल में क्लासिफाइड हो गए, तो उसमें 100 होना चाहिए, 75 होता है। हाउसिंग लोन भी रिस्ट्रक्चर्ड होते हैं, और जहाँ रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग लग गई, चाहे वो स्टैंडर्ड रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग हो चाहे रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग हो, वहाँ पे एडिशनल 25% का RW है। तो वी हैव टू कीप दैट इन माइंड बाई चेकिंग दैट। इसको कोई चेक ही नहीं करता। बट ये आप लोग एज अ सेंट्रल ऑडिटर बहुत फील करते थे यार, ये पूरा ब्रांच ऑडिट में 95% ब्रांचेस में कहीं ये चीज़ कोई डाल के नहीं देता था। ये इंक्रीज्ड RW ऑन रिस्ट्रक्चर्ड, अगेन रिस्ट्रक्चर्ड अकाउंट में भी प्रोविजनिंग थोड़ी सी रिस्क वेट थोड़ा सा बढ़ जाता है। अनसिक्योर्ड पोर्शन जो है NPAs का डाउटफुल है, तो अनसिक्योर्ड पोर्शन पे 150% का चलता है। तो ऐसे बहुत सारे रूल्स हैं विच इज़ अंडर बेसल 3 सर्कुलर, उसका मास्टर सर्कुलर है, उसके आपको 30 पेज ही बस पढ़ने हैं बीच के, उसमें 300-400 पेज है, बट आप 30 पेज पढ़ेंगे तो यू विल गेट एवरीथिंग विच इज़ रिक्वायर्ड फॉर अ ब्रांच। सो दिस इज ऑल फ्रॉम मी फ्रेंड्स, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आई विल रिक्वेस्ट फॉर एनी क्वेश्चंस ऑन रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग इन देयर। यार तुम KCC मत पूछो, मैं सेंट्रल ऑडिटर में दिखते ही नहीं। पूछिए।
ये कैश डिपॉजिट वाली जो आपने बताया था ना, वो सेम डे मतलब डिपॉजिट और विड्रॉल?
हाँ वो करते हैं, करिए NPA, हम तो कर देते हैं। अभी बैंक ऑफ इंडिया मेन ब्रांच में जानते होंगे इन लोग, इतना बड़ा एग्रीकल्चर पोर्टफोलियो है, इतने NPA किए हमने उसमें, इतने NPA किए हैं कि ये जो लास्ट डेट में आता है KCC 2 क्रॉप के बाद, उसमें उसको फिर वापस दे देते हैं, लिमिट में आते हैं। करिए, नोबडी विल स्टॉप।
लेकिन वाउचर लगे हुए होते हैं उनके, उसमें साइन वाउचर सेम डे के कैश डिपॉजिट और विड्रॉल है।
तो आप एक्सटर्नल कंफर्मेशन मांग के बुलाइए, तो आप करना है करिए, बट अगर आप उसमें कॉल ले लेते हैं कि सब फ्लॉ है, सेम डे में हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, आप कहानी लिख दो अपनी LFAR में, दिस इज द रीजन डिस्पाइट रिकॉर्ड ऑफ एग्रीमेंट। बताया ना 4.2.6 बड़ा स्ट्रॉन्ग है, एक ही हथियार है हमारे पास, उसको आप यूज़ करिए। आप अपना वो कीजिए। ऐसे केस में सेंट्रल ऑडिटर व्यू ले लेता है अगर बड़ा अमाउंट, तो छोटा अमाउंट को दिमाग में।
थैंक यू। जैसे कि अब इसके बाद पैनल डिस्कशन में भी अपन ये सब टॉपिक अभी डिस्कस करेंगे, तो शैल वी कंक्लूड दिस?
थैंक यू।
Thank you, Abhishek ji, for giving us deeper insight into various technical circulars and IRAC norms, RBI का जो इंटेंशन है, बैंकों का जो ऑडिट का जो ऑब्जेक्टिव है, इसके बहुत अच्छा आपने डेलिब्रेशन दिया है। So thank you very much. With this, I would like to conclude this session. Over to Anmol.
CA Gulab Kedia to present a memento to a learned speaker, CA Abhishek Mahavar, as a token of gratitude.
स्टेज रिस्क पे आ गए हम लोग। Further, I request CA Rajesh Rathi sir to please present this token of appreciation and gratitude to our session chairman CA Sameer Singh sir. Please sir.
Now, I would like to invite our session coordinator, CA Ravi Jain, to deliver his vote of thanks.
थैंक यू सो मच अभिषेक सर। लंच के बाद वाले सेशन पे आपने इतने अच्छे तरीके से इस टॉपिक को समझाया है और मैं समझता हूँ कि एज ए सी से आपने बहुत अच्छे से अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया। कुछ चीज़ें हैं जो हम यहाँ से लेकर जा रहे हैं और ऑडिट करते वक्त इन चीज़ों का ध्यान रखकर शायद और अच्छे तरीके से इस बार ऑडिट करें। थैंक यू सो मच सर।
Yes. Ready?